Vietnam and France to further trade and economic relations. Impacts of Decree 60 on Vietnam's securities market. Hello and welcome to this edition of BizLine, brought to you by VTV International. You're with me, Lina Pham. And as usual, we'll start our program by reviewing the economic headlines during the past week. French President François Hollande had a state visit to Vietnam on September the 6th to the 7th, during which he attended high-level meetings with Vietnamese leaders. During a working session with State President Trần Đại Quang, the two leaders witnessed the signing of 16 bilateral agreements, one of which being Vietnam's purchase of 40 jets worth $6.5 billion from France Airbus. Later on, he met with Vietnamese Prime Minister Nguyễn Xuân Phúc. Prime Minister Phúc urged the two sides to further promote cooperation in the fields of economics, trade and investment, strive to double two-way trade turnover, as the current figure is only $4.2 billion. This number is still low and has not fully tapped the two countries' potentials. President Hollande later on attended meetings with French startups community in Vietnam and the Vietnam-France Business Forum held in Ho Chi Minh City. According to National Steering Committee for Business Renovation and Development, over the last 8 months, 42 state-owned enterprises and 2 for-profit administration businesses have been equitized. 9 businesses have been liquidated, while 1 filed for bankruptcy and 1 was sold. Progress of finalizing the policy for restructuring state-owned enterprises has been quite slow. As planned, the ministries had to submit 23 documents to the government for issuance as decrees decisions. However, by the end of August, only 12 documents had been submitted. According to General Department of Taxation, online tax refunds will be applied in Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh City, the northern port city of Hải Phòng, and the southern provinces of Bình Dương and Đồng Nai from November. If the pilot project is successful, tax authorities will expand the online tax refunds in 8 cities and provinces in December. By the end of 2017, 95% of provinces and cities nationwide will use online tax return services. Steel imports are on a downward trend following Vietnam's application of anti-dumping fees. According to the latest statistics from the Ministry of Industry and Trade, steel imports in August plummeted 14% compared with the same period last year. Meanwhile, value fell 5%, equivalent to $352 million. Steel retail prices in September will remain stable thanks to constant supply. Ho Chi Minh City Department of Transport on September the 4th has announced plans to construct a flyover connecting Tân Sơn Nhất International Airport and the city center. The project aims to address traffic jams in the city. The 5-kilometer flyover will be built under the BOT or Build, Operate and Transfer model. The project will cost an estimated $130 million. The Southeast Asian leading jobs website jobstreet.com has just announced Vietnam's 10 most popular workplaces. 4 out of 10 listed companies are 100% Vietnamese-owned companies, with the remainder joint ventures. Leading the list is Unilever Vietnam, followed by Vinamilk and Vingroup. The FPT Corporation and Viettel are also listed. More than 2,500 workers in different sectors were canvassed in the second quarter of this year. Hanoi's authorities have claimed the city benefited from an additional $18 million of spending after pedestrianizing streets over the 4-day national holiday period. The number of tourists surged over the National Day holiday, reaching 200,000 people, up 22% compared with last year. A wide range of cultural, musical and arts performances were organized along the streets. The city also experimented with free Wi-Fi coverage over the areas. Starting September the 1st, streets around Hoàn Kiếm Lake are pedestrianized at the weekend. We have just reviewed some of the economic headlines during the past week. Up next, let's learn more about Decree 60 and its impacts on Vietnam's securities market in our crosstalk. A year ago, Decree 60, which included a long-awaited regulation on removing limits on foreign ownership in listed companies, was issued by former Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng. This decree is expected to not only have huge positive impacts on the development of the securities market, but also accelerate the privatization process that the government is determined to speed up. 1 year after the decree took effect, how has it impacted the securities market and foreign investment into listed Vietnamese companies? We will talk with CEO of Maritime Securities, Mạc Quang Huy, in our crosstalk to learn more about this issue.
The government's Decree 60 that removes the 49% cap on foreign ownership on some listed companies officially took effect on September 1st, 2015. The move allows foreign shareholdings of up to 100% in some firms. The decree specifies that the foreign ownership cap is completely removed for government, municipal listed companies and bondholders. In addition, no limitations are applied to foreign investment funds in security indices, derivatives, depository notes, or to securities companies and public companies. On August the 19th last year, the Ministry of Finance issued Circular 123, providing specific guidance on the necessary procedures foreign investors must take to operate on Vietnam Stock Exchange. It is estimated that as a result of Decree 60, some $10 billion worth of stocks will be available for trade to foreign investors.
Hello and welcome to this BizLine edition about extending foreign ownership in Vietnam. Now, it has been a year since Decree 60, which stipulate the extension of foreign ownership to 100% in public companies, took effect. How has it impacted the stock market and also businesses alike?
I think Decree 60 is very important legislation in the securities market that the market has been waiting for. Has been waiting by the market, and it provides the opportunity for the foreign investor to take the significant control over the company. Now, when the foreign investor come into Vietnam market, certainly they need to make sure that the invested company is operating in the way they want. And one of the ways to do that is to have a control and having the representative to sit in the board to manage the operations of the company. So when the regulation came to effect, we can see the soar in the indexes and the stock market in general. It's a very good opportunity for Vietnam securities market to attract further foreign investment in Vietnam. And in return, that also may speed up the process of equitization and privatization of the state-owned enterprises, because it is really opportunity to raise and attract the foreign capital in the state-owned enterprises, and that would be very good for Vietnam economy to develop.
So far, how many companies have lifted their foreign ownership cap, and how does it impact the capital inflow into the stock market and also for the firms?
I think that will have significant impact and the boost to the market in the future. As you know, currently we have about 5 or 6 billion foreign indirect investment in the local market. I expect over the long term there would be more the significant foreign capital inflow into the market, and that would actually lift up the indexes and also the valuation of the company. And I think that from the point of view of the firms, this is also very important because once they can lift up the foreign ownership limit, they can attract more foreign investors. They have more opportunity to raise capital to finance the expansion of the business. Some of the company already finished. For example, SNI, Vinamilk is in the very end of the process of lifting up the foreign ownership limit. Pan also very close. Bình Minh Plastic, BMP, also very close. And we have a dozen of companies in the process of doing it. But again, it can take a lot of time. It can take up to a year. And also we have a lot of unclarity over the process. So it's important that the company have to take the legal advice and also this professional services from investment banks, like security firms, to make that happen and to smoothen the process.
Now, 1 year after the decree took effect, what limitations and shortcomings have been revealed?
Obstacle would be the unclarity over a number of things. One is the unclarity over the process. And many companies wishing to live up the foreign ownership limit do not know what they have to do. And number two would be the unclarity over the conditional business lines. They have to refer a quite number of different sets of law and regulation, and also commitment of the government under the WTO. So there could be a lot of confusions over that process. And the third obstacle would be the awareness of the enterprises and the motivation of doing so. Because certainly we have a very good company, but the management teams or the big shareholders are actually having concern over lifting up the foreign ownership limit simply because they get the fear that foreign investor would actually take over the company also. So they may see that as a threat rather than opportunity to raise capital and to have foreign partner to go along with them in a journey to develop the company over the long term.
According to the Ministry of Finance, conditional business sectors are those that provide services for national security and defense. Those sectors are not subject to the removal of the foreign investment cap. However, according to the laws on investment and business, there are currently 267 conditional business lines, including many that do not provide services for national security or defense. This is a barrier for enterprises that want to increase foreign ownership in their business.
Các doanh nghiệp chủ yếu kinh doanh đa ngành đa nghề. Trong các ngành nghề đấy có một số các ngành nghề mà lại nằm trong các ngành nghề không được phép nới room, nên là họ không thể nới room được.
The Ministry of Planning and Investment is proposing to eliminate 67 sectors from the list, while adding 14 others, reducing the number of conditional business lines to 214. However, multi-business line companies still face a challenge in removing the ownership cap.
Theo yêu cầu của Nghị định 60, một công ty mà có một ngành mà bị hạn chế bởi nới room 50% thì tất cả những ngành khác cũng sẽ chỉ đạt tỷ lệ 50%. Cho nên khi một công ty muốn nới room, họ sẽ phải loại bỏ cái ngành nghề bị chặn room đó ra.
In order to attract more foreign investors, such enterprises have to eliminate some of their business lines. For example, Vietnamilk Corporation, which officially removed its ownership cap in June this year, has eliminated 7 to 9 of its business lines. However, this is not the only obstacle for firms to raise their foreign ownership.
What are the regulations on conditional business lines? And is it clear enough for businesses to implement the removal of foreign ownership cap?
Currently, there are 267 conditional business lines. And the government is actually in the process of revising and streamlining and cutting down unnecessary conditional business lines. So that's a good thing because that reducing the number of conditional business lines so that more companies would have opportunities to live up to foreign ownership limit. Now, I had to say that because you had to refer to different set of regulation. You had to refer to law. You had to refer to different commitments that Vietnam made under different BTAs and WTO. And then you have to refer to the investment law. So that could be a tricky and difficult process. It's also important to note that even the company having the business in the conditional business line, they can still live up to foreign ownership limit. One example is the security firms. So security firms is actually conditional. It's highly regulated business line. But under the security law, they can lift it up to 100%. Now, there are other sectors that are not in the conditional business line, but also is subject to different law and also commitment with the WTO. So it's not automatic that whatever sector not in the conditional business line can live up to 100%. So that's the tricky part. And basically, you have to consult the legal advice.
What recommendations can you suggest for firms to attract investment from foreign companies and effectively raise capital from the stock market?
As a rule of thumb, if you want to attract the outside capital, you have to make yourself attractive. And one of the ways to attract the foreign capital is to tell the story about yourself. So the firm have to know how to present themselves, how to sell their story to the outsider. And they have to apply the advanced corporate governance practices. They have to apply the good accounting and auditing practices to show to the outsider. You can see a lot of good stock in the local stock market, but already had the full ownership limit of 49%. Some of the examples include FPTs or Vinamilk or Hậu-Giang pharmaceutical companies. So foreign companies actually want to have further interest in those very good companies. So the willingness to take on further people and take on the outsider and to open up the foreign ownership limit would actually allow the foreign partner to come in, and especially if you can open up more than 51%. And that would be very attractive point for foreign investor. They can then consolidate the operations in Vietnam to the global account and also to exercise the control and the best practices in the company.
There's an opinion saying that as regulations on conditional business line is still unclear, security companies seems to have more advantage in loosening their foreign ownership cap. What is your opinion on this?
Yes, I agree with that. It's very apparent that the securities company can automatically lift up the foreign ownership limit, and the process is very clear. And we see the SNI, Saigon Securities Incorporation, already completed that within a short space of time. And now the foreign investor already taken up more than 51% of SNI. So that would be quite good for the security firms, to lift it up and also to attract the foreign investor. But I think that it's also important for the government to do further improvement to the regulation, to make it more transparent and to make it more accessible and understandable to different firms, so they can actually follow suit and complete the process at a reasonable cost and within a short space of time. So that would be a boost to the market and also attract foreign investors to Vietnam market.
Since Decree 60 took effect, 10 enterprises have removed their foreign ownership cap. SSI was the first company to take the step in September last year. Since then, its foreign shareholdings have increased from 49% to 58%.
Phần lớn là các nhà đầu tư nước ngoài đi theo hướng là đầu tư dài hạn, và họ thường đi vào những công ty dẫn đầu thị trường, các leader của các ngành. Thì với các nhà đầu tư này, họ có xu hướng là buy and hold, mua và nắm giữ. Nhà đầu tư nước ngoài tham gia vào SSI thì họ cũng đã có những cái tác động nhất định đối với các quản trị của công ty. Công ty chúng tôi luôn hướng đến cái thông điệp đấy là minh bạch và đồng hành cùng với nhà đầu tư.
Besides SSI, other securities companies removed the caps such as IB or are preparing to increase foreign ownership such as VN Direct.
Đối với công ty chứng khoán trong năm vừa rồi thì cũng có SSI là tiên phong trong việc mà mở room 100%. Còn đối với VN Direct thì hiện nay thì chúng tôi cũng nằm trong cái kế hoạch để có thể xem xét trình hội đồng quản trị cũng như là đại hội đồng cổ đông để nghiên cứu và tìm cái thời điểm phù hợp để nới room 100% để hỗ trợ cái việc mình huy động vốn.
In addition to raising capital, experts say that the removal of the ownership cap also has positive impacts on the stock market, especially transforming Vietnam's stock market from a frontier market to an emerging market. As of August 23rd, the VN Index and HNX Index have climbed 13.8% and 4% respectively from late 2015. The average transaction value of each trading session stood at nearly $278 million, up 25% annually. Despite the positive changes, experts state that the number of firms to remove the cap is still small and the process of implementing Decree 60 is relatively slow.
Chúng ta đang thấy rằng là cái tỷ lệ các nhà đầu tư, các doanh nghiệp niêm yết cũng chưa thực sự gọi là phản ứng nhanh với cái việc cái nghị định ban hành. Rõ ràng là nếu mà các doanh nghiệp nước ngoài sở hữu mà vượt quá 51% thì đây là gọi là những doanh nghiệp gọi là có vốn đầu tư nước ngoài, gọi là FDI, thì rõ ràng là phải ứng xử, câu chuyện là ứng xử với những doanh nghiệp nào mà khi nước ngoài nới room mua vào lên vượt quá 51% thì thế nào. Rõ ràng là các doanh nghiệp niêm yết cũng như là các ban ngành cũng hiện nay đang gặp những cái vướng mắc nhất định.
Should companies with foreign ownership rates about 51% be considered as domestic or FDI companies? This issue is still being discussed as part of the draft of amended laws on investment and business, which will be submitted to the National Assembly in October.
Changing the foreign ownership cap makes it hard to determine whether a firm is domestically or foreign owned. How will this affect business operations?
Under the investment law, a Vietnamese company can be considered a foreign investor if they have more than 51% ownership by the foreign investor. So, for example, SSI or Vinamilk can be considered as foreign investor in that sense if they have ownership of foreign investor more than 51%. Now, if they are treated as a foreign investor, they may have difficulties, or they may have trouble, or they may have disadvantages in treatment with respect to certain further investment that they may have in the future. And I think that's a valid concern that the government needs to make that more clear for the firms. I can give you one example. The security firm, for example, investment bank, is the conditional business line. And if the investment bank or security firms become considered as a foreign investor, then when they have the prop trading or they have the principal investment in another company, they may be treated as foreign investor, and they are certainly subject to a lot of restriction as opposed to the local investor. So it's certainly a concern. It's a valid concern. The other issue, the very practical issue, is the ownership limit in a company can move every single minute. From this minute, they may have 48%. The next minute, they have 49%. The next minute, they have 52%. And then 100%. So given the fact that the ownership limit can move every minute, how you would treat this at the local or foreign investor, that would be an issue. So I think the government need to have further regulation, further guidance over the treatment of a public company, whether it's a local investor or the foreign investor, when they open up the foreign ownership limit.
What measures have been taken to remove this obstacle and help businesses attract foreign investment?
Well, I think the government has been listening to the business communities. There have been surveys, there have been seminars, asking questions and asking about the obstacle for implementation of Decree 60 in reality. So I think there would need to be further action by the government to further clarify the concern, as I mentioned before. And it's really important that for the government to have one guideline over the business line. That means somebody or the legal firm have to consolidate the different regulation in different law and different set of regulation and commitment and the BTIs, and they can put the different guidelines to different business line. So the firms can actually refer to that set of the guideline. And ideally, that guideline have to be updated on a timely basis. So that would actually reduce the burden and also the confusion of the firms to refer to. I also mentioned before, the government is actually revising the investment law and appendix to investment law regarding the conditional business line. And it's quite positive that they are trying to reduce the number of conditional business line. So that means firm would have more opportunity to live up the foreign ownership limit.
Thank you for joining our program.
My pleasure.
The lifting of foreign investment caps provides opportunities for investors looking to invest in Vietnam and its growing economy. But in order to facilitate foreign investment, it has been suggested that the government should minimize the number of conditional business lines. At the same time, more amendments should be made to the law on investment and business to eliminate any loopholes regarding listed companies with more than 51% foreign ownership. This issue will be under discussion and be submitted to the National Assembly in October this year. We'll continue to keep a close watch on this issue. For now, that's all for this episode of BizLine. Thank you very much for watching. You can always rewatch our program at vtv4.vn or youtube.com/vtv4go. From our team in Hanoi, until next time.